Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion today, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience at SmithWeekly, including Joe H., Edward S., Paul M., and Mark R. On the program today, we've got a new guest joining us for the first time. Mr. Matthew Roma is on the podcast with us. Matt is the Chief Executive Officer of Golden Cross Resources, a Victoria, Australia-focused gold exploration company that is advancing the Reedy Creek gold project, which spans about 750 square kilometers of grounds just to the north of Sunday Creek gold deposit held by Southern Cross Gold. Golden Cross Resources is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol AUX and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol ZCRMF. Mr. Roma, welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to coming on.
Yeah, Matt, it's great to have you on the program for the first time. Very interesting and quite successful region here where you guys are focused. It's an interesting one and probably one that at least a portion of our audience doesn't even know about, which I want to get into here in just a moment. But before we do, you are new to the program. Why don't we kick it off here by you giving us your background and experience in the junior natural resource sector?
Absolutely. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, been in the mining business now for, well over 10 years, in various different capacities. And in the last, call it 8 years, I've been, building and managing public resource companies in various executive roles. And yeah, we came across this asset not too long ago. Love the address, love the neighbors, and yeah, we jumped right in and acquired this project. In my view, right at the right time before gold became what it is today, and the market just turned as we took this thing public.
Yeah, I think it's interesting the timing. As you know, in the junior sector, good drill holes can certainly be rewarded even in a bear market, and it's been a quite a bumpy ride over the last few years for sure. But then at the same time, when you have good market conditions, at least to the extent that we see reasonable sentiment improvement, man, can that amplify company success here as well, and just access to capital and all those things that you know much about in this sector that's very much important. What do you think of the gold market today, Matt, as far as how you're seeing things? I mean, it is quite a different market even 6, 8 months ago, even a few months ago, as far as the price goes. Talk up a little bit about how you look at the market today, and then also just that improvement in sentiment that we've seen in the junior sector.
This is, in my opinion, a long overdue kind of catch up with these prices. If you looked online 2 years ago and people were calling for $4,000 gold and $50 silver, the outside world that wasn't in this space would call you crazy. And fast forward to today, and silver hit $51. Gold's been above 4,000 for a few days now. It's an exciting time, but it's also a little bit of a concerning time because what does it mean outside of the resource world to drive gold and silver prices to where they are. So yeah, it's great for the mining business, but overall, yeah, it's an odd time.
I echo your sentiment there, just as far as why prices are where they are today and how that looks on the backdrop of the global stage. Certainly, that's a bit of a concern, and certainly as well, broad market conditions. We, as folks that are in the junior natural resource sector, have to keep an eye and ear on what's happening in the broad market, as we know that can certainly impact our sector as well. So, good information on that. Appreciate the comments. Well, let's get into Golden Cross here. Before we jump into some of the news, just give us a brief overview and background of the company, and then also how you come to take the post of CEO to lead the company.
Yeah, so Golden Cross Resources, as you mentioned, is a gold exploration story located in Victoria, Australia, which is about 45 minutes north of Melbourne. We own 445 square kilometers with a application to expand that land package to 750 square kilometers. And we are located directly north and contiguous to a company called Southern Cross Gold, which, if you're not familiar with that story, it's probably the global gold discovery of 2024. They're now valued at over $2 billion Canadian. They are pre-resource, but they do have a very exciting, I won't call it a deposit because it's technically not a deposit yet, but it's it's a wonderful asset. Further to the north, we have Agnico Eagle's Fosterville mine. We have Mandalay's Costerfield mine. So an area that is known for extremely high grade gold projects. I believe Fosterville today is the highest grade gold project in the world in production. And this was an asset that we came across from a company called Great Pacific Gold. They actually their corporate office was located in the same building as us in Vancouver. And a member of our board, Daryl Carty, had a relationship with the gentleman who started that company. And they had assets in Victoria, but they also had assets in Papua New Guinea. And their focus was on Papua New Guinea. They have a bit of a backstory there with K92, also located in Papua New Guinea, and that's where they were focused. And a year ago, it wasn't like it is today in terms of capital being available. So for a junior resource company, they had to focus. They had to pick a core focus, and luckily for us, they picked Papua New Guinea, and that's why these assets became available for sale. And we started negotiating on these assets back in September 2024. And keep in mind, gold was, probably not even $2,000 at the time. The company Southern Cross to our south was, a couple $100 million market cap. By the time that we reached, a definitive agreement and signed the deal to acquire these assets, it was about December 2024. I think Southern Cross was traded at about a 400 million market cap, had some very exciting drill results. This was an RTO into a public company for us, so it took about 4 months for exchange approval. By the time we listed the company in April of 2025, Southern Cross had crossed $1 billion market cap. Gold had a tailwind, and we really just timed this at the right time. We had a well oversubscribed initial, financing, financed again in July at 3 times what we did our initial financing at, and the market support for this story has been, amazing. We're a very liquid story now. We trade, close to 1 million shares, if not over 1 million shares every day. Sometimes you got to be lucky to be good, and we just timed this acquisition at the exact right time, just pure luck. Not going to take credit for the timing, but yeah, it's a wonderful asset. It's a wonderful place in the world to work, and it's an area that has very, very strong, high grade rocks. And we are in the initial phases of exploration across the Reedy Creek project.
Matt, thank you for going over that. Great location. Interesting area just from a current production, Fosterville, and then also just past production as well in that area. And there's definitely a handful of peers in the region. Victoria seems to be great with this region, at least with respect to gold mining. So that's good as well as you look at various jurisdictions in Australia and comparables there, exploration and operating mines. Current work, Matt, you guys have completed the phase 1 drilling program, some results pending from that, and also the phase 2 drilling program is ongoing to test targets identified at Reedy Creek, and then also with that, the targets at Shepherd's Hill and Welcome Reef prospects. Just cover off where we are on work, the recent results that were announced, next items you're seeing coming down the pipe here is key, and then also when will more news come on the assay results?
Yeah, so when we launched the company in April, we announced a phase 1 work program of 2,000 meters and a phase 2 work program of about 4,000 meters. We have completed the phase 1 work program, drilling about 2,300 meters. We have recently released results of just 3 holes for just shy of 400 meters. So from that phase 1 work program, we still have 7 holes pending for about 1,900 meters. And with that recent announcement, we've also announced a phase 2 work program of 10,000 meters. And those 10,000 meters will be in 2 areas, at least for now. An area called the Reedy Creek Goldfield, which encompasses Shepherd's Hill Prince of Wales, Wynoroida Ridge, and Thompson's Reef. And that's basically a 3 kilometer gold in soil anomaly that we structurally mapped and identified these targets. And we're also drilling an area called Welcome Reef, which is further to the east. And it has a wonderful backstory. Back in the late 1800s, a gentleman by the name of Louis Amui had come into Victoria and started working on this ground called Welcome Reef. And it became a gold mine, producing an estimate of about 9,000 ounces of gold at 25 grams per ton gold. And it actually made him, Louis Amui, the wealthiest man in Victoria. And he went on to start one of Australia's largest banks called Westpac, which is still around today. But following the closure of that gold mine, no company has been able to obtain surface access to that ground until us. And we only did that, a number of weeks ago. So that ground has seen no modern exploration techniques. And we have a drill rig on there now, and we've just finished drilling the first hole with the second hole planned to start this week. So we're very excited about that area, just given that, no one's been able to do any work there. And it obviously has produced some extremely high grade ounces in the past. So this is a project that, for those that are brand new to the story and haven't heard me talk about it before, this entire project was subject to, artisanal mining. And basically how these guys would work is they'd get in there with their, limited technology, their picks and their shovels, and they would dig into these high grade veins. And, back then there was no reclamation obligation or anything like that. So they would just leave these, open pits and mine shafts kind of, exposed at surface. So one of the first things that we did once we had access to this project is we flew it with LiDAR imagery, and you can pick up all of the gold workings from the past. And across the project, we've identified something like 1,350 old gold workings. And I point that out because the reason that Southern Cross drilled Sunday Creek, the $2 billion exploration project, less than 10 kilometers to the south of us, is they had 6 old gold workings at surface, and they drilled underneath it, and now they've got a $2 billion market cap company. So, we're following the same, methodology that Southern Cross did is, find out where these workings are, obviously look for the highest concentration of clusters, and, focus there. And for us, the 2 highest clusters are across the Reedy Creek gold field, where essentially the entire phase 1 work program was spent, and Welcome Reef, which is another area that has a huge cluster of workings. And it's still early days. We have a lot of results pending that's going to drive, decision making on, where the future meters get drilled. But we're off to a great start. We've got 2 rigs turning and have been turning since July. We had 1 rig when we launched in the beginning of June and added a 2nd rig in July. And we've got a fully funded phase 2 work program of 10,000 meters that is actively ongoing.
Lots of stuff happening here. And with that, you guys also acquired, as part of this, we talked Welcome Reef there and potential on that project as well. And I encourage the audience to go take a look at the map that you guys have on your website to orientate yourselves a bit here. But you guys also have been consolidating, and of course, the addition of the grounds in that area. Are there any other areas that really sparked your interest that you guys intend to evaluate maybe after this program? Any other areas that we missed that you want to bring up?
Yeah, I think the ones I've highlighted so far are really the core focus right now, but we are doing work across the project and are always looking for additional opportunities that would make sense for us.
More results coming. We'll see. Looks like we'll be getting results on what you guys are doing all the way through the end of the year here. So definitely encourage folks to take a look on that progress and watch as well as you guys continue to deliver on those results as the results coming in. And you guys did just announce recently a few good hits there as well, just recently a few days ago. So good stuff on that. Well, why don't we talk a little bit more on the administrative side, capital structure of the company, cover the shares outstanding for us here, Matt, the current cash on hand and how you see that carrying the company through phase 2 work, and then also key shareholders on the roster, including management and the board.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, we've got a great structure for the stage of company we're at. We've raised about $10 million to date. We've got a little over 60 million shares outstanding. the split of the ownership, management, close associate, business partners own about a third of the company. Institutional, we're a little over 10%. Retail is about 50%. And then the company that we acquired the project from, they have an equity interest in the company and their ownership is about 7%. And, in our last financing, we went out to raise $3 million, had $20 million in orders. And there was an extreme amount of institutional interest in the financing. And our largest participator in that financing was Jupiter Asset Management out of the UK, a global recognized mining fund. And, they've become, a cornerstone shareholder for us, buying shares in the market, really supporting us. This is a story that's garnered a lot of interest from, all different walks of life, just given the success that, not only Victoria has as a whole from a gold investment option, but the amount of people that have made an absolute bundle on Southern Cross for an opportunity to participate in a potential lookalike next door. It's gathered a lot of interest.
Good to hear on some of those folks. Definitely well-known names in the sector, and definitely early days here. And congratulations on the ability to raise the capital here out of the gate, the way you guys have done this, and then get on the ground. So very nice structure there, Matt. Well done getting this off the ground. Some of the people there at the company who are supporting you and on the ground, you mentioned Daryl, but any other folks there that you want to mention that are key to what you guys are doing?
Got a very close board and management team. So and all have a little bit of different experience. So myself, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a chartered accountant by trade, hold executive roles in various different capacities and different exploration companies. But most notably, I was the original CFO of a company called Snowline Gold. For those that are not familiar, that it's a $2 billion now gold exploration company based up in the Yukon. I was one of the founders of a company called Gladiator Metals, which is also based up in the Yukon, which is a copper developer. And on the board with me is, as I mentioned earlier, Daryl Carty. He has been in this business for a very long time and has had a couple of very successful exits. He was a co-founder of Northern Empire Resources, which was acquired in 2018, and also Underworld Resources, which was acquired in 2009 by Kinross. He was a founding director of K92 Mining. And on the board with us is Nick Rowley, an Australian resident and resource executive with close to 20 years of experience, working in different commodities. Our VP of Exploration, Alan Till, who's got close to 20 years experience, worked all over the world, lives 30 minutes from the project, is full-time, on the ground, with a team. So, we've got a very well-rounded, board and management team that's really focused on moving this forward, building shareholder value, making a discovery.
Matt, thank you for that. Yeah, some good information there. Snowline certainly been a great success, and definitely some folks there that have been in the sector for quite a while and have had successes. So thank you for covering off some of the folks there helping you out. Community work. Just talk a little bit about that. Talk about the community in the area. Maybe also with that, what you guys are doing to assist and work with community on partnership and alignment as you guys advance the work at Reedy Creek. Anything on that front you guys want to cover?
Yeah, I would just say that, we, mineral rights does not give us land access. So we are working closely with, the various landowners in the area to ensure that, our interests are aligned and, that we create that working relationship, given that only one of our board members is an Australian resident. The rest of us are, considered foreigners in that area. We want to make sure that, we meet the needs and respect that, they ultimately own the land. So working closely with them and making sure that we have a strong working relationship because, we plan to be there for a long time. And as long as we make a discovery, we aren't going anywhere. And we want to, build that from the foundation.
Thank you for covering that, and looking forward to seeing more efforts on that front as you guys advance the project forward here towards success. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, the overall bigger picture for the company, overall strategy. What do you think the plan is here as far as moving forward and having success? How do you look at that success? What would you like to accomplish with this company in the coming years? I think we know full well that M&A appetite in this region of Victoria is quite good, but just talk a little bit about your overall strategy and vision for the company.
Yeah, I think this is ultimately, this is really a drill punt story, and we have never sold it as anything else. It's a high risk, high reward gold exploration story, and myself and the rest of our board and management team, ultimately our goal is to make a discovery of scale, and ultimately transact to upstream to a gold developer, a gold producer. Agnico Eagle is obviously in the area. They're likely a natural acquirer of Southern Cross and the Sunday Creek project, just given their relationship in the area, the life of the Fosterville mine, and we'd love to make a discovery as well, and that land package becomes that much more valuable with two discoveries on it versus just the one to the south of us.
Yep, that's a good way to look at it, and appreciate you coming out and saying what this is, and definitely high risk, high reward. Can always appreciate that, and what your guys' focus here is, which is full on discovery. Well, Matt, short of any other comments you want to add here, why don't we wrap it up for this introduction? For potential investors who are listening in, Golden Cross Resources has a market capitalization of about 51 million Canadian dollars. Why should the company be considered within the institutional, family office, and retail investors portfolio at this stage?
What I just touched on, I think if we have any sort of success on the drill bit, I think this is poised for a significant re-rating. You don't have to look very far to see the trajectory of some early good drill results were for Southern Cross, and we're ultimately trying to replicate that. We have very similar high-grade gold systems across Victoria, and we believe we are onto something similar. And ultimately, if we make any sort of discovery here, I think this is going to be, a several hundred million market cap company. Time will tell. We have the cash to do it now, and that's exactly what we're after.
And Matt, for investors seeking further information, how can they reach the company?
Yeah, please go on to our website, subscribe to our email list. We are on LinkedIn, we are on Twitter, we have a YouTube channel. So, we try to keep everyone updated through the various courses of information channels. So please, subscribe, email us at our info email. Those get forwarded to me. So happy to speak with any, prospective or already existing shareholders.
Matt, thank you for that, and certainly encourage the audience who has any interest in gold exploration in Victoria, Australia, contact them, reach out and ask your questions. Matt, well, thank you for the introduction to the company. Best of luck with the exploration work. We're looking forward to following this and looking forward to having you back to update in the coming months.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate being on and thank you for having me.